You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome in a very special guest that I'm very excited for, a legal legend, which we love, Judge Frank Caprio, a retired judge who served as the chief judge of the municipal court of Providence, Rhode Island, and chairman of the Rhode Island Board of Governors for Higher Education. I first saw Judge Caprio appear in my social media feed through his compassionate judicial work, televised on the program Caught in Providence. Now author of Compassion in the Court, which I can't wait to read. Wow, what an honor, Judge. Thank you so much for being here today.
Great to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. So a quick fun fact, I'm just going to throw this out there. I went to Roger Williams Law in Rhode Island. My wife is from East Greenwich, Rhode Island, and I'm now in Central Mass, so I just wanted to, this program's about you, but I wanted to throw it out there that I'm not too far away, so I did spend some time in Rhode Island. So, Judge, here at Lawyer Stories, we discuss legal professionals and their journeys to the practice of law, their challenges, inspirations, and motivations, and sort of like what they're up to now. And what a career you've had. Can you just tell us like where it all began? Like your parents were immigrants from Italy, and through hard work came over to U.S. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You know, of course, my parents were immigrants from Italy. My dad came here when he was 7 years old.
Okay.
He was a fruit peddler.
Wow.
Peddling fruit up on Federal Hill in Providence, which is the Italian section of Providence. And his father was a fruit peddler as well. There were 10 children in that family, so they all had to work very, very hard. But my story is a little bit different than most others. My father was one of 10, and not one of the 10 went beyond the 7th grade.
Wow.
My mother was one of 9, and not one of the 9 went beyond the 7th grade. So you could say we were lacking a little intellectual stimulus.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. All right.
But I maintain that I've said this in the court many times, to change someone's life or to change the direction of someone's life, everyone thinks that there's this great grand plan. You know, you have to have a book or an outline or some kind of professional help. Sometimes you can change the course of someone's life just by putting your hand on their shoulder and telling them that you believe in them.
Wow.
That's what happened to me when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
We were living in a cold water flat, which means we didn't have hot running water. And we had an old potbelly stove, and it was freezing outside. And when it was freezing like that, usually my parents would leave the oven door open, and we would sit in front of the stove.
Right.
And my dad would talk to us about life. And I remember it like it was yesterday. My father put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Someday you're going to be a lawyer."
Wow. I literally just got chills from that. Okay, keep going.
I never wanted to be anything else. I never wanted to be anything else except an attorney. I wrote my career book in junior high school on being an attorney. I couldn't afford to go to law school, so I taught school days and I drove to law school nights in Boston.
Okay. Yep.
So I took the easy road, route Route 2 to Boston at 4:00.
Wow.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I don't either. Right.
Or the Southeast Expressway, you know.
Wow. So what? I'm curious. Go ahead.
Basically, I took the road less traveled.
Right.
Less traveled, but it was all because of the family unit.
Yep.
So many times people equate being poor, being underprivileged. I wasn't underprivileged at all. I was very privileged to have a loving family that cared, a father that gave us direction, supported us all along the way. And so went to Providence College,
Yep.
worked in a restaurant, washing dishes. When I graduated, I was accepted to Boston University School of Law, which was my dream.
Wow.
To be you. But a funny thing happened. I didn't have enough money to go.
Right.
So I took courses in education, and I taught school in Providence at Hope High School, and drove to Boston to Suffolk University. Thank God for Suffolk University,
Right. Shout out
because
to
they had a night law school,
Yep.
and that's how I became a lawyer. It was very, very difficult. I tell these stories in my book, incidentally.
Yeah, no, I bet. Yeah, it's probably hard to put the book down once you start reading it. Do you remember, like, why was it when you were sitting there with your dad that he was like, you're going to be a lawyer? Like, what was it about those conversations? I'm curious about that.
Well, because it was my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was an integral part of our life. He
Okay.
wasn't his father. He was there every second, every minute, every problem. My dad was there. He was like a tower of strength, and his word was almost like what came from on high.
Yeah.
Everything.
Right. Right.
So my father basically, I remember it like, what just happened. He said, we were just talking, and he says, "You're a good talker." His finger just like this. "You're a good talker. Someday you're going to be a lawyer."
And that stuck with you.
Put his hand on my shoulder. I never forgot it. Never wanted to be anything else. Never aspired to be anything else, right, except an attorney.
That's amazing. So what was it like, becoming an attorney and then kind of being a judge, like going into becoming a judge?
Well, it's not like in the movies where, there's a big plastic.
I know. I know.
I'm a judge takes an awful lot of maneuvering. It takes an awful lot of promoting.
Yeah.
But I'm sometimes amazed that the Providence Municipal Court is probably the lowest level of judiciary in Rhode Island. And nevertheless, at that level, we were able, right, to impact the world.
Totally.
And we get letters from all over the world. We get donations from all over the world.
Wow.
I've been invited all over the world.
Yeah.
And I've had some great experiences. Went to Abu Dhabi, went to Dubai,
Wow.
Italy, and others as well.
Wow.
Went to India.
That's amazing. So how do you think the profession has changed, like, since you've started? Like, have you seen other attorneys come before you? Like, have you, I know there's a whole world of social media, but how do you think it's sort of changed since, you became like an associate out of law school and a judge?
I'm not so vain that I think I changed anything. In other words, all I can tell you is that.
Well, no, I mean, just that, are the lawyers different than they were back then, basically? Would you say?
Well, I think the lawyers today are a little bit different, and I have to be careful on how I phrase this. But
Yeah.
when I first started practicing law, there were a lot less lawyers, and it was a very close community.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure it's a close community anymore. I think it's spread out, and so.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that's the problem.
So
But my courtroom was a little bit different than most courtrooms.
yeah,
First of
yeah.
all, people who came to my courtroom did not have to be there if they didn't want to, because they were charged with traffic offenses.
Right.
90% of the time, they were charged with something where they could have paid the fine and stayed at home.
Okay.
Nevertheless, they decided to come into the court. And I would say that 90% of them it would be their only experience to the judiciary. And so the impression that I left on them, that our court left on them, would be one that would remain with them, for the rest of their lives. My dad told me a story that when his father came from Italy, his father was a fruit peddler, And my grandfather and a few of his friends, after they peddled fruit, decided to have a little bit of wine, and they became a little unruly, and the police came, and they were arrested.
Okay.
And my grandmother's neighbors ran to her and says, "Tomorrow your husband has to be in court. You have to be in court tomorrow. He's in jail." My grandmother panicked, so she went around to all the fruit peddlers, asking them to borrow money because she had to get her husband out of jail. And the following day, my grandmother didn't speak English, but my father went down as the interpreter, and he told me the story. So he says they go to court. The judge comes out, and my father referred to the judge always in the same terms. He called him a great white-haired Irish judge. My father loved this judge.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. So my grandmother now was in full panic mode.
Yeah.
Her husband's going to go to jail. So she's in the courtroom. They take him up. He's disheveled and so forth. And my grandmother, before the judge can say anything, leads into her dress, takes out the money, and says, "Judge, please, no jail. Please, no jail. I got a pneumonia." Right? The judge said, "My father, do you speak English?" My father says, "Yes." He says, "Tell your mother that her husband is a good man, that he had a very bad day, but that we're going to forgive him. And I'm going to send him home, and I want her to cook him a good meal. And forget this." Well, that had such an impact on our entire family. My father adored the judiciary and the practice of law, all because of that judge, because
That
of
judge.
how he was treated. Now, don't forget, he was an immigrant.
Right.
The judge was mean and yelled at him, which happens a lot. You know, so
Right.
how dare you come into my court and do this? So anyway, so I always remember that story because in our court, we had an overwhelming number of people who came from other countries.
Right.
Providence is a state of immigrants.
Right. And the show, of course, caught in Providence. Like, how did you, like, how did that get started? Where somebody said, "Hey, Judge, like, we're going to come into the courtroom and make some content."
We had a magic wand, we just
Yeah.
and it happened. There's a story behind everything. I have a younger brother, and he wanted to become a videographer.
Oh, nice.
So he
Okay.
came to me to support him, to be a videographer. So we got him a bunch of cameras. And then Rhode Island created I got a mental block here. What do they create? Yeah, the public access station.
Okay. Okay.
My brother was able to get 2 hours a day on public access. He was delighted. I got 2 hours a day on public access.
That's awesome. All right.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
Except after a week, he came to see me. He says, I can't film enough things to get 2 hours a day. Like how many? I can only film so many files.
Oh, yeah. Right. Right. That's hard. Yeah. That's
You're
difficult.
going to get the content. So my wife suggested that he film my court program, and that's how it all started.
Wow. How long ago was that? How long did this show start? 25 years. I mean, and it's huge. Millions of people, billions of people. I mean, it comes right across my feed. I watch it. It's very, it's very warm and nice to see the compassion. Tell us why compassion. I mean, I know you have the story. You had that sort of interaction with the judge when you were younger, and then what did the story? Were you always like that, or did the being behind the film in front of the camera sort of like shift it?
First of all, just to get this straight, I act no different if the cameras are there or the cameras are not there.
Okay, all right. That's a bad question. Okay.
Absolutely no effect on
Okay.
how I indicate. Except that I grew up in a very poor family. My father was a milkman. He used to wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, "Come on, you have to work so that you stay in school. If you don't want to do this the rest of your life, make sure you stay in school." Right. And secondly, most people look at court in Providence. They thought it was a studio job. It's a real courtroom.
Oh, totally.
They paid. All those other court programs, they're financed by the producers.
Right.
So I find somebody they paid. So I made a vow that I would treat everybody with respect,
Sure.
understanding and compassion. Respect, understanding, and compassion. It's the least that they can have. I call it compassionate justice.
Right.
How am I serving justice if I have a woman come in who's an unwed mother with 3 children, and she has $400 in parking tickets because they've all tripled. They really were 125, and now
Yeah.
they're 100. So how is it compassionate if I say to her, "Okay, you're setting a bad example for these kids. I'm going to fine you $400."
Right.
Can't pay it. So they place a boot on her car. Now she can't drive the car.
Right.
Now she can't go shopping. Can't take the kids to school. Then they're going to tow the car. So where's the justice there?
Right.
There is no justice.
No
So
justice.
I took the totality of someone's life or circumstances into consideration whenever I decided the case. Everyone, I took the time. Usually I ask them, "Tell me about yourself. What do you do? How many children do you have?"
Right.
And it's easy to go by the book. Okay, the book says, fine for towing, $125, 125. It's very easy, except that it's not you who's paying the fine.
Right. No, that's right. And I remember a clip where an older gentleman came in and I don't know what the parking violation was, but he was trying to drive to get his son medicine or something like that, and then he got what's that?
His name was Victor Coella.
Yeah, I think so.
He lived to be 102.
Wow.
Actually, he died a few months ago.
Okay.
I kept in contact with Victor after that program.
Yeah. No, that was amazing. Like, and people love these like good feel good stories because a lot of the stuff you see is people trying to show how tough they are, how mean they are, how they're laying down the law and the black letter law and like not approaching things with compassion. And that's what I try to do here at Lawyer Stories, like with everybody's story. But I love that that's how you compassion in the courtroom, and you have all these people. You probably kept in touch with a lot of them. You've definitely impacted some of these little kids who you invite up to the bench, and they'll remember that for their entire life.
I do that for a reason.
Yeah.
They won't be intimidated by the experience. Just imagine if I'm yelling at some parent. Little kids there, kids probably shivering. I'm yelling at the parent. What kind of an example are you setting for this kid?
Right.
Let's get serious. These are traffic offenses. These are cases of moral turpitude.
Right.
So
Right.
I decided it's a lot easier for me to bring the kid up on the bench. Say, "Okay, give me a hand with this. What do you think?" So when those kids leave, they're never the same. They'll never look at the courtroom the same. They'll have a whole different perspective on justice once they come up on that bench.
Definitely. Do you ever feel somebody's taking advantage of your good nature, like being like kind of like I understand that you treat everybody the same across the board. You serve justice with compassion, but has anybody sort of come in there and been like, I don't know.
No. People are very transparent. I can spot a phony a mile off, so
Okay. All right. Okay, good. So, I think there was also a college kid that was going to be an attorney, and like you sort of let him argue a little bit before the court to like get a taste of like what it was like to be before a judge. And I think you it was like a parking fine or something like that. I thought that was very interesting. Because I think going before the judge, it's very intimidating. You know what I mean? So like even for somebody like me, I've been out of law school for a while, but that's sort of like an intimidating thing. So that's, I think, the compassion approach is one that served your courtroom very well. Any other particular litigants that you like stay in touch with or that you remember?
I remember several. Actually, there was a young man who came before me a few years back, and he refers to himself as a bad boy.
Okay.
So he came in. I actually forgot what the offense was, but it wasn't a traffic violation. It could have been disorderly conduct or something different. So I had completely forgotten about him.
Okay.
And recently he came in again, and he had a traffic violation. And I asked him how he pled, and he says, "Before I say anything," he says, "I want you to know." Then he went on and told me. He started to cry. He said, "I was before you." He says, "I was a bad boy.
Yep.
I was going down the wrong path in life." And you asked me, what did I want to do the rest of my life? Did I want to go to jail or did I want to be a good, productive citizen? He says, I decided back then that I was going to be a good boy. And he's in business for himself now. And he showed me the back of his jacket, you know, and he came in again. It was just a very heart-wrenching thing. I don't know how many lives I've changed, if I've changed any, but I know I changed at least that one, you know?
Yeah.
And what he did was he reached in his back pocket, this young man, and showed me his passport. He now has a passport, you know? So for him now, he's reached a different pinnacle in life.
Yeah.
And he became a citizen of the United States.
Right. Yeah. What a great feeling. Actually, so is your brother still involved in the show? Is he still taping it at all or no?
Anymore.
What's that?
We don't film the show any longer.
Oh yeah. Well, back when it was still going, I meant. Yeah, I know you're talking.
Actually, I made a mistake that other people make. I called it a show. It's not a show. It's a real live courtroom proceeding.
Right.
So most of the TV shows that you see are financed by the network.
Right.
People who put before them get paid.
It's not like we need to draw the distinction between Cotton Providence and like Judge Wapner. Remember Judge Wapner from the People's Court?
Of course.
Okay, good. Yeah,
that was a studio job.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, so there's got to be a distinction. You're definitely, you could tell that it's a real courtroom, real litigants, real people with tickets, and totally, yeah.
The real deal.
You could tell it's the real deal. I could tell that right away. So what's it like skyrocketing to this fame, like in your 80s? Like, did you ever think that this would go where it went? I mean, millions of, or maybe billions of views on some of your clips, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's great work, and it's great, it's how you're serving compassionate justice. But what's it like getting all the fame now?
Oh, I haven't changed one bit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The thing that really impressed me is the impact that simply doing what my parents taught me. Seriously, treat people honestly with dignity and respect and compassion. And I made a vow that I would do that. I'm going to tell you about my first day on the bench.
Please, yes.
My first day on the bench. Excuse me for a second. Just let me. Had my dad. I said, Dad, I'm going to be in court. I'm a judge now. Why don't you come down? So he came down to view me my first day on the bench.
Okay, cool.
Woman comes in. She could not have a worse attitude. She was boisterous. She was disrespectful. She had 3 or 4 kids, and she had, I don't know how many parking tickets.
Okay.
So it's my first day, so I'm all full of myself. I'm a judge now. And I said, well, she said, I don't have any money. I can't pay him. I said, I'll place you on a payment program. She says, you can place me on a payment program. I can't do that either. I just don't have the money. I can't pay, and I'm not going to pay. I said, if you're not going to pay, I'm going to put a boot on your car. She says, you can do whatever you want, but I can't pay. I can't pay. And I got 4 kids, and I got to take my kids to school. Wow. I said, well, you're not cooperating. She says, I just can't pay. I said, okay. So I boot the car.
Okay.
After court, I can't wait. My father's in court. I said, Dad, come on in chambers.
Yeah.
He said, what do you think? I'm so proud of myself, right?
Right.
He said, that woman. I said, what woman? It's the one you booted her car. How could you do that? I said, Dad, she was disrespectful. He said, she was scared. He said, what's she going to do with these kids now? She can't drive them to school. If they get sick, she can't drive them to the doctor. You upset her entire life. You can't make these cases based on how you feel personally. You have to base them on the circumstances. Look at her circumstances.
Yeah.
Suppose her kids get sick tonight. She can't take them to the doctors. My first day on the bench, my father straightened me out.
Wow.
First day. Never forget it.
He's a very smart man.
Never forget it.
Very wise. So did anything happen with that case? Do you remember? Or going forward, it kind of just changed your, yeah.
Well, it was the first day on the bench. I have no idea. I wish I could tell you it had a happy ending. I don't know.
You don't know. Well, I hope she doesn't still have the boot on her car.
I beg your pardon?
No, I said I hope she doesn't still have the boot on her car. I don't think she does.
No, 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 no.
So let's talk about your book. Let's talk about your book, if you'd like.
My book, in the book, I have a number of stories. The story I just told you was in the book, and there are others.
Compassion in the Court: Life-Changing Stories from America's Nicest Judge. Why now did you decide to there it is. There it is, folks.
Passion in the court.
So why now did you decide to this was the perfect time?
That's right now. We have 20 million followers
Wow. Unbelievable.
on Court in Providence.
Yep.
How many views? Anyway, views are in the hundreds of millions.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Time is right
Yeah.
to share my experiences on the Court in Providence. Actually, I've been asked by several sources, write a book,
Yeah.
It's so popular. Well, I decided to write the book. Now we'll find out how popular we are.
Yeah. No, we'll get the book. I mean, that's some great stories. I mean, Judd, like you gave me chills with some of these stories, especially, your dad's advice, sitting by the stove because it was cold and him telling you you're going to be a lawyer. And, I'm a parent. I have like really little kids, and I actually wanted to ask you if you have any, life advice for just, being a dad, being a good father. I mean, your son's right next to you.
I do.
Okay, good.
Be there for your kids.
Okay.
Everybody has something important to do. There's nothing more important to do than to be with your kids and to let them know that you love them. I mean, I can't get rid of my kids. I got my son Davis beside me here. My son Frank is in the other office.
That's
I
great.
still can't get rid of them, and they're 50 years old. So
That's great. I love it. Well, they seem like it seems like you did the right thing as he was helping you with everything pre-show. I mean, you definitely raised some nice boys.
I think one of the sins of this country is the disintegration of the family unit. Family
Okay.
unit, basic unit of society. So my advice is keep the family unit intact. Keep
Yeah.
it intact.
I agree with you. What about what are your thoughts on having regrets? Do you just say move forward from something you were sort of you did something you regret? I don't like to have regrets, but like what are your thoughts? Like if there's something that like you might have approached a different way in your life, like do you in general, I'm not, in general, what are your thoughts?
Listen, I regret not many things. I regret things I've done in my life. And the only thing I've done is I've resolved not to do it again. You can't undo it. You can't undo it. If I could, I would. In some circumstances, if it was something I could undo, I would do that.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. It doesn't make any difference. Being in the Providence Municipal Court was such an experience in life for me and for everyone else. I had people coming from every country in the world to Providence Municipal Court, speaking so many different languages, but they all spoke the one language that is common to all of us. That's the language of understanding and love and compassion. Everybody understood that, and to get up there and be so full of yourself that you're going to show them that you're the boss and bang the hammer and give them a big fine. And even though they can't pay it, that doesn't serve justice at all.
Right.
Justice at all. Just place yourself in the shoes of the person before you. And I try to do that every day on the bench.
Empathy, yeah, for sure. And I think you've also, when people look at, people who are kind of tuned in to the legal world and they look at Providence, Rhode Island, you're sort of like a ambassador who's brought so much positivity to Providence and to Rhode Island. I mean, I feel good about going to law school now in Rhode Island because of we have Judge Caprio. So that's amazing. So why, speaking of positivity, like why is it important for you to leave like this big sense of positivity in the world?
Well, that's what life is all about. Life is leaving things better the way you found them.
Definitely.
By lending out a helping hand. Everything starts from something very small. My dad was a milkman, and he was told by his company that if people didn't pay the milk for 2 weeks, that he had to stop delivering the milk because they weren't paying. That was the company's rule. My father had his own rule. my father's rule was if they had kids, he wasn't stopping the milk because he wasn't going to deprive the kids of the milk. And he'd get himself in trouble with the bosses, but he didn't care.
Yeah.
They have kids, So it was this type of attitude that I was brought up with, always help people, think of other people first, So it all starts in the home. It all starts, you can't have an absentee father and someone who's not there for their kids and then expect the kids to be compassionate. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, Judge, I personally want to thank you for everything you've done and for being like a compassionate, serving justice with compassion. I think that's great. I think we need more of that in the world. And, you've definitely had a huge impact on everybody who's been in your courtroom and everybody who's watched your reels. You watch one of your videos and you come away just feeling really good about it. And you don't know how many people out there that you've probably made smile just looking at their phone. You don't know where they are, somewhere in the world. They're looking at their phone. Oh, here's Judge Caprio. They're watching this case. You're serving justice in the right way, and people are smiling like from everywhere that they're watching these things, including myself. So it's such an honor to be able to have you on the Lawyer Stories podcast, and congrats on your book over there. I'm excited to get my hands on that.
Book is Compassion in the Court. It will be released in February.
Love it. I love it. So, Judge, is there anything else, any parting advice, anything else that, about the book, about your show that you'd like to share?
I think we covered it pretty well. I appreciate the opportunity to be on.
I think so too. Well, thank you so much again. Please stay right there. Everybody else, thank you for tuning in to this very special episode. And wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.